Hi guys, from this video onwards we will discuss mostly used Git commands in day-to-day projects. So if you learn these commands, you will be able to work on any project which is using Git. So this video will talk only about git config command. Okay. So there is a command called config. Now what is a git config command? So as the name says config, git config command is nothing but it is used either to set some configurations or get the configurations. So like if you want to set some configurations, then you can use this command. Or if you want to see what are the configurations of the git that were already set, then also you can use this command. Okay. And if you talk about configurations, usually where the configurations will be set, there would be a configuration file, right? If you think generally, what happens if you say about any configuration, there would be few configuration files that exist and values would exist in those files. So even for git there are configuration files. So in the configuration files you can set the configuration values. Okay. And for git there are three levels of configurations. Okay. Now whenever you install git on your system, even not general, not just git, so if you think about a from a permission perspective, what you will see, you will have a no system level permission, or you will have user level permission, or you have file specific permission, which means that if you set something system level, any user who can access to that particular laptop or a desktop can access those. If the permission is user level, then only a specific user can access that. Or if it is a file level, it means that a person can access that file, only that file. So in even in general also you have these levels, normally you see, be it at file level or permission thing. So even for git you have three things: system level configurations you can set, and user level configurations you can set for git, and as well as the project level configurations. So system level, when I say system level, so whatever users, like it is applicable for all users on the system. If I say user level, only it is available only to a specific user, but that user can have multiple projects on a laptop, right? So that is applicable to all those projects. If I say project level, then that is applicable only to a project. So let us talk about repository perspective. Let's say I have a repository. Okay, let's say I have repository A on my laptop, which is being version controlled by Git, and I have there are repositories like this: A, B, C, D. Okay, and for A and B, I am the like user A. User A is the owner, like user A. And for C and D, let's say user B is working on that. Oh, right. So what happens here is, now when a user A is working on A and B, when a user A is working on A and B repositories, uh, usually repository exists on some GitHub repository, right? It is not like it's not on your laptop. On laptop you will work and then you will finally push code to a GitHub repository. Okay. Now whether you push code to a GitHub repository or pull, like this is a GitHub repository because this is the place where you can host your projects so that other developers also can access from this, right? So when a user is working on a GitHub, what he can do, he can either pull the code or he can push the code. When he is doing that, GitHub also has certain level of security, right? Any user can't log into GitHub and pull these AB repositories or push to AB repositories. Only a certain users can do that. So what happens is, when you are pulling and pushing, you have to provide your username or password or SSH key based on the mode of authentication you use, right? So let's say I'm working, A user A is working, and he's having A and B repositories. He's working on A and B repository. Let's say he's working on some 100 repositories on a laptop. So whenever he wants to push, every time providing the username password, it's very tedious job. Okay, so what you can do is, for this user you can set username and password, so that whenever he is working on his projects, it won't ask you again and again his username and password. So that is called user level configuration. Now let's say I have my username and password, but for this, for this project, uh, it could be some other repo, like GitHub is one repository, right? Let's say it is using some Bitbucket. There is some other Bitbucket repositories as well, right? So the repository hosted is Bitbucket. Okay, sorry for bad handwriting here. So let's say A is working, and 50 of his repositories are from GitHub and 50 of his repositories are from Bitbucket. So, or not just 50, let's say a single repository is from Bitbucket. So, global level, user level, this credentials, whatever I have set, might not work for Bitbucket. I would have set a different credential. So, for a specific project, if I pass these user level configuration or username, it will fail definitely. So what I can do is, I can set a configuration or credentials only at project level. So that is called project level like configurations. And coming to the system level, now let's say I create a repository on my local, and by default, if you would have worked on any repositories, by default the branch would be, master would be the default branch. Sometimes you would have seen main branch is the default branch, or develop. So all those configurations lies at the system level. Okay, so, because when I say a default branch is main at the system level, whatever repositories I create on my laptop will have main as my default branch. So, this is the differentiation between system level, user level, and project level configurations. But we'll run the command and see what are all the configurations that are set. So on the paths also, if you see, system level lies here, etc git config, and user level configurations lies here, and the project level configuration lies here. So let me, open these for you. I have installed my Git version control system on program files. So on program files, when I go to Git, what is the path for the system level configurations? etc git config. So I go to etc, and this is the git config. So this is the configuration file. I can just, I can open with I open with editor here itself. We'll use the command level as well. So these are all the configurations that are set. If you see, the default branch is master, and these are all the configurations. Okay. Now, what are the other things? User level is when I say this, tilt mark, it is you have to go to that user. Like, even if you see the system level dot etc, it is present at the program files, the path where you installed. Okay, so that's why it is system level. When you say user level, you have to go to user path and then go to dot git config. So here my username, like I'm going to my user, and I'll go to dot git configs. Yeah, so this is my configuration file. Because this is specific to a user, right? Okay, now I'll open this. So if you see, I have my username, I have my email ID, and I have my, other LFS things. Okay, this is the user level configuration. Now, for the project level configuration, what I'll do is, I'll just init. I'll create a folder. I'll create folder here. I'll show to you. So I'm going to my desktop folder, and then What I'll do is I'll create a new directory, basically git version control project. So I'm just creating it. I'm doing git init. So don't worry about a git init command. I'll explain it. Now I have created a project on my desktop, and the project name is git version control. Okay. This is my project. Now if you see in this project, I'll have this git init. Okay. I can go to dot git. Sorry. So this is git version control, right? I have initialized it. Because it does not exist. Let me do it, okay? Git init. So if you see, I can go to dot git, okay? Now this is the git project dot git config. So if you see here, when you are doing for a project level, dot git config. Now I have initialized a project using using git init. This command will like I'll explain in the next video. For now, you just follow me, and you have a configuration file here. Like I can go here and show you as well. Like let me refresh it. I guess this is hidden file, okay? But like you can just remember that you will have a config file, and I'll show how to retrieve these values or how to view these values. So now we are like we have seen like what are the paths these configuration files exist, right? Now let's say main use of this command is either you set a configuration or you get a configuration. Let me see what all configurations that are present system level. So what I'll do is git config list is the command to see all configuration variables. So this is the git config list is the configuration variables list. So here if you see, you have the credential manager, you have the username, and you have few commands that are duplicate. Filter LFS clean, filter LFS merge. So, and the hierarchy at which it applies is, let's say I have a variable at system level and project level. Okay. Now project levels takes precedence over system level. Even if I have a configuration at user and system and user level takes precedence. So it goes like this. First preference would be given to the project levels configuration settings, and second preference would be given to the user level, and third preference would be given to the system level settings. Okay. Now here you saw duplicates, right? It would have been this way. Like few settings are present in two places. Either it could be at system or user level, or system or project level. So how to by just seeing the list, you people might get confused where these configuration properties exist at which level. So to get the level along with the properties, you can add show origin to the git config list. So I did this. So when I did this, if you see this, like all the topmost configurations or system level configurations, and the C uses snaggery.git config are the user level configurations, and the last one config is the project level configuration. So you have seen filter.lfs exists at two places, right? It exists both at system level and the user level, but the user level one takes precedence. Okay. Now using configuration, you saw the list of the configuration variables. Now let us set something. As I said, whenever you want to push or pull a repository, you have to provide credentials, right? So you will see the commands to set your credentials. There is a command git config dot global. Global is user level. So for my user, set this username, user dot name. Okay, I'm setting just something, test user also I can set. Okay, so global level, my username is test user, and git config global user dot email would be test user email. Okay, this is done. Now let me fetch this. So I'll fetch so you have set the variable, right? That is global level. For that user, for the user whoever has done that, For that user, those are the credentials. Okay. Now git config, I'll get user.name. So if you see, for this particular user, the username is test user. Now this is like a get command. So git config minus global is like a set command where you are setting your username and email, and whenever you do the git config user dot name, whenever you give git config and the property name, it gives you that value. So I'll do this git config user. Let me do the list again, and I'll fetch the value git config core dot bear. So the value is false. And git config, I'll give another one lfs clean. What is the value? This is the value. So what it is giving is, it whenever you give the git config and the property name, you can get that. And initially I said you, right, you can set the initial branch also. Now the initial default branch is master. I can edit that. Git config initial dot default branch. What is the default branch name here? Initial. Yeah. So here, yeah, git config, if you see the list, the initial branch is master. You can edit that using the, by passing the system level configuration. Init dot default branch. Let me edit that. Instead of master, I want to give that name as a main. Okay, now that is done, right? Let me see the values here. Okay, if you see, the default branch now is main. So whenever I create a new repository now, my default branch would be main, because this is a system level configuration. I have passed minus my slash system. If I am using a user level, I will pass slash global. And if I'm doing some project level, I go to the project and I'll just, without passing anything, I'll remove this global system. Then it assumes that it is a project level setting. So you got it, right? And let me also explain you about git help command, because like you might encounter lots of git commands, right? If you want to understand what that command does, you can do with the git help. Now I want to know what this command config does. So when I do this help config, so it opens you a manual page where it will do get and set repository. So this is the git help command. Okay. Now there are two ways you can use the git help command. One is git help config or git config help. Both are the same. Yeah, thank you.